Welcome to Catharsis. Let's take a look at the top 10 manga or manhwas similar to Solo Leveling. Starting our list at number 1 is The Ranker That Lives a Second Time. The story follows Wu, who had a twin brother that suddenly disappeared, but one day he received a pocket watch left by his brother. Hidden inside the pocket watch was a diary that contained his younger brother's adventures for the past 5 years he's been missing, and how he got betrayed by his comrades and died. The story is more focused on the MC and him trying to find the people that killed his brother and exacting revenge on them, rather than the world around him or other characters. The MC isn't overpowered in the beginning, but gradually gets overpowered because of his training, his choices, and because all of the legendary items and equipment's locations were left behind in his brother's diary. As a lone solo player, he moves forward and learns all he can to find the people that killed his brother, and gets more weapons and equipments along the way and become more overpowered. The Legend of the Northern Blade. When the world was in chaos, martial artists from different places gathered to form the Northern Heavenly Sect and defeated the Silent Knight and brought peace to the world again. As time passed, martial artists began to conspire against the Northern Heavenly Sect, which ended up in the death of the sect leader and the destruction of the Northern Heavenly Sect. Jinmu I, who was the only son of the sect leader, was left behind without knowing any martial arts. But he eventually acquires the martial arts of the Northern Heavenly Sect that was hidden by his father. As our main character trains and endures all the humiliation he receives, he gets stronger and more overpowered, and pays back all his enemies and traitors. Tomb Raider King. This is the story of a world where relics have started to spawn all over the world, governed by deities. Because of the relics in these tombs, many were able to acquire legendary powers for themselves. Our main character, who had a lot of experience hunting these relics, dies. However, he gets reincarnated into his past before relics were first discovered. With his experience and knowledge of all the relics he had encountered, he now has an advantage over everyone else who are trying to get their hands on these relics, and uses it to claim all the relics for himself. This is a different take on your typical overpowered protagonist manhwas. The MC is a little psychotic, but no one really likes the normal main character. The Return of the Frozen Player. After being frozen for 25 years after defeating the Frost Queen, Seo Junho, otherwise known as Spectre, suddenly thaws in an elementary school assembly at a museum dedicated to him and his team. He gets reunited with his friends who are much different than they were before, and he realizes how the world has changed after he became frozen. He then decides to start over and become a rookie again, and put a hold on the Spectre name to gather enough EXP and get stronger to fight the enemies that are after him. The Advanced Player of the Tutorial Tower. One day, monsters started to appear suddenly, and with them, a mysterious tower also appeared. The tower transported people randomly and forcefully into it, and teach them how to become a hunter, by having them fight monsters on different floors. Only 20% of people who enters the tower come back out alive, but those who do make it out, come out as hunters with special abilities and skills to fight the monsters. Our main character, who was forcefully brought to the tower, got trapped inside it, and had to clear the tower over and over again, and maxed out all of his stats until after 1,350 runs, he was finally able to leave the tower. When he left the tower, 12 years had passed. Society changed, guilds were formed, and those who were lucky enough to survive the tower gained great wealth and power. Now he must live in this unfamiliar world and adapt to the changes and fight the monsters. The Boy of Death. Our main character, Lee Kyung-ho, wanted to end his life because of being bullied and the loss of his mother. His strong determination to end his life entices Sierra, a Grim Reaper who later offers him a contract, which grants him the ability to borrow the powers of the dead by using special tickets given to him at the cost of sacrificing years from his lifespan. For attaining his wish and to find his mother's spirit, he accepts. He then later meets Han Chae-yoon, who can see ghosts, which is someone he needs in order to find his mother's spirit. He later becomes her bodyguard and tries to get closer to her. As he fulfills his role as her bodyguard, the two get closer to each other and together they search for Lee Kyung-ho's mother's spirit. Triple S-Class Suicide Hunter. In a mysterious dungeon-like tower, Gangja Kim lives a mundane existence. Because of his lack of talent and skills, he is envious of all the star hunters and wishes that he could be like them. One day, his wish for greatness was granted when he acquired a legendary skill that allows him to copy the abilities of others, but at the cost of his life. Before he could understand any of it, he accidentally discovers the secret of the #1 hunter and got killed. Upon his death, his skill activates and he was given the chance to copy a skill, and luckily, that skill gave him the ability to travel back in time upon death. And so he travels back in time, and after many failed attempts, he kills the #1 hunter and uses his newly acquired skills to live how he wanted and become stronger. Limit Breaker. Out of nowhere, monsters suddenly started to appear, causing mass destruction and death. Kim Ki-bong, a convenience store worker who just left work and was on his way to get food for his mother, got injured by a monster and was about to die. But then he was transported to the awakening area, which was an area where a player undergoes a simulation to awaken their abilities. Inside the awakening area, he undergoes a simulation, but after completing the simulation, an error occurred, and he got trapped inside the simulation area for 3 years. When he finally escaped, 10 years had passed, and the world was now overrun by monsters and dungeons. Now Kim Ki-bong joins the battle with his level maxed out from the 3 years he spent inside the awakening area to restore the world back to the way it was. Mercenary Enrollment. Ijin Yu, our main character, was involved in a plane crash from which many people died. Everyone thought that Ijin had died in the crash. However, 10 years after the incident, his sister and grandfather, who he has no memory of, was notified that he was alive and that he was going to be transferred to his sister's school. For the past 10 years he was thought to be dead. He was living as a soldier, going on missions, and was very skilled in combat. No longer a soldier, he has to get used to living a more peaceful life as a student. But when faced with problems at school, he is forced to take action and protect his sister. Villain to kill. There are two kinds of people with special abilities: psychers who pursue justice, and villains who are driven by evil desires and commit crimes. The story follows Cassian Lee, who is a psycher. One day, on a trip to Greece to visit his friend, things took a turn for the wrong when he is put through a series of events that caused the death of him and his friend. He then unexpectedly wakes up in the body of a Korean high school boy, Kwon Gang-gu, who just awakened as a villain. Now given a second chance, he tries to find out what caused his death and betrayal by his former co-workers while trying to understand and control his new powers as a villain, while defeating villains and upholding justice. Now that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day.